Brightly beams our Father's mercy from his lighthouse evermore. But to us he gives the keeping of the lights of life.
Pick you up after school.
The other kids, they think I'm weird.
Carrie, favorite poem? Did you bring one?
I don't want to be. I want to be normal.
Which was the harder movie to remake, this or Let the Right One In?
I mean, they're so very different because I think with the problem with Let the Right One In is like that was such a quiet first movie, and the book was crazy. So we wanted to bring a couple things from the book, but at the same time, I think we did a bit more of like a shot-by-shot remake of the movie instead of a retelling of the book.
Right.
Whereas this isn't a remake of Carrie, the original. This is a retelling of a Stephen King novel.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was the more of the difference. And we also, instead of, in this movie, we brought a lot of the speaking backwards. And then in Let the Right One In and Let Me In, we brought the speaking up in our movie. So it was kind of a difference in that way.
You go to your closet.
No, Mama.
Go to your closet and pray.
Ah, no! 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 Get off me! Mama! No! No!
You pray, little girl. Pray for forgiveness.
What I liked about Margaret White in this movie is that there's a lot more dimension. There's more dimensions to her than we've seen in previous versions. Is that from the book, or is that just something you added, or something you and Kimberly worked on?
I think it's present in the narrative, in the novel. I have a great deal of sympathy for Margaret. Stephen King describes kind of, what happened to her, how she became a religious fanatic, that she was sort of an outcast within her own family and kind of joins this religious cult and then finds them too liberal for her, too permissive, and meets this man, and they leave and form their own church, with their own rules. And when he passes away and she's pregnant, she doesn't even know that she's gonna have a baby. So she thinks she's dying of cancer. So the fact that someone is so kind of so fanatical and so deluded to find herself in that position, and then her only community is really with this child that she has all on her own. I mean, I had a tremendous amount of sympathy for her.
What's interesting about this version of Carrie, this retelling, I should say, is that Carrie seems to be, between her and her mother, seems to be the more dominant one. And,
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and not just because of her telekinetic powers. I mean, what I love is how you communicate with your eyes the rage that's boiling inside of Carrie.
Well, that's what I really want to show, is because the telekinesis has to come from somewhere. It's a combustion of emotions, and you have to show that friction. And also in the book, you really read that. I mean, Carrie in the book is much more anger-filled than even what I put in there, but I definitely want to show a bit more of the rage that is boiling within her, and that friction of how she's trying to tame it. She's trying to say, I can be good, I can be good, I can be good, but there's this demon in her head, which is this telekinesis that is making her, it eats at whatever is bad in her life, and it eats at her to where she just has to combust, and that's what I found way more linear to the book, and it was more interesting.
What drew you specifically to do this version of Carrie?
For me, it was Kimberly Peirce. I really wanted to work with her.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed, obviously, with Boys Don't Cry, but I also really loved Stop Loss, and so I just thought with her directing this movie and Chloe being Carrie, it was a total score. So I really campaigned for it. I really wanted to be in it.
Why do you think people keep coming back to this particular Stephen King novel? It's been remade a couple of times. It was a musical.
Because I think that he wrote a really, really brilliant story. A couple of things. One, he wrote an amazing character in Carrie White. I think she's iconic. I think she's universal. I think she's deeply relatable. We fall in love with her, and her need for love and acceptance is something we all need. So right there, you got a character you love. I think the situation that she's in is extraordinary. She's got trouble at home because she's got a deeply religious mother who's got ideas on child rearing that end up, even though she loves her daughter, they're constantly feuding. So she's got an amazing domestic home life that's combustible. She's got a combustible life at school. She goes there, she's the misfit, she's made fun of. We all can relate to that. And then what happens in this landscape, she discovers she has a superpower. So a superpower becomes the equivalent of talent, right? It's the thing that any of us can do well that's going to help us get through life. I think we see an opportunity there and we root for her. And then, of course, what's amazing is that other landscape of these kids. You've got Sue, who feels guilty and does what rich people do, and she donates her boyfriend. You got Chris, who gets pissed off at Carrie because Carrie just keeps getting people's attention. So you end up having something that's classic, it's iconic, it's timely, it's timeless, and it's always relevant. And you have Carrie going to that prom, and we're all thinking, we're all thinking, go to the prom because I want to see you have a great night. I want the Cinderella story.
Absolutely.
But we're also saying, don't go to prom, and when you do go to prom, I want to see it all fall apart. We have a very complicated, sadistic relationship with Carrie.
Yeah, we do.
We use her to be our stalking horse, to carry out what we dream of, and then carry out what we fantasize about.
The way the character cuts herself, that was something I didn't expect to see.
Yeah, I like that. I wanted to do that because I felt like that idea of feeling guilty and then, or also wanting to, or being so far away from feelings too that you want to inflict pain on yourself than you actually have a feeling. And it also makes the child horribly complicit then in that self-abuse. They feel like it's always their fault. It's a terrible thing to do to a kid.
Yeah, it is. I really like the dynamic between you and Julianne Moore, who is fantastic as your mother. Is that something you worked on off the set, or?
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of, it was so easy. We clicked immediately. I mean, we had a lot of fun together because I work the same way she does. I mean, we're very rehearsed and we know exactly what we're doing. But at the same time, we love to have fun and we love to play around and we love to have a good time together. And for me, it was, she was so easy to get along with and it made set so much fun along with the craziness that was going on.
Is it ever hard to balance out like the character in terms of like going from caring to the students to being exasperated by them at all?
It was hard because I got more wrapped into Carrie than I anticipated I would when I was sort of preparing for the role, because actually of Chloe's performance in it was like so moving to me that I found myself where I felt like I should have, my choice in the beginning was to be a bit more like even-sided. Once I got on set and I started working with Chloe, I just like kind of like girl crushed out on her and was just like, no, it's all about Chloe. I just care about Carrie. Whatever, you guys are bitches and I'm like into her. I'm on her team.
With Chris, you see this hesitation towards evil, but then she sort of allows herself to be, say, taken over to the dark side.
But that's wonderful. So it was important to me that we didn't have her just throw tampons and hurt Carrie, and then you didn't really hear from her, in terms of evolution of her character, and then boom, she was like doing this thing at prom. It was important to me that every time Carrie got a win, the teacher took in Carrie, Sue took in Carrie, Chris's father kind of supported Carrie by saying, give him the phone. Chris had an escalation. Carrie got a win, Chris had to retaliate. Carrie got a win, Chris had to retaliate. So at the end of the day, you ended up with a really complex character. At the heart of it, she's a wounded girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's a girl who wants love and acceptance as well, only she's used to getting it in really mean ways.
Was there anything that you brought to this movie that wasn't in the book or on the screenplay?
The book was like my Bible. I mean, I live by that thing. I had it on set with me at all times on my person, but I think Julianne and I put in a lot of stuff. We put in the special scene right when I get home and I cleanse myself. We put that in as almost a baptism, which I really liked, and it likened it to the religious area of the movie. And also the scene where she braids my hair in the closet, and that's what Julianne put in. And I thought that was a beautiful scene because it shows the love and endearment that I found interesting, that was new.
I think the closeness to Carrie, the idea of wanting, her fear that she's going to lose her. I think that's, ultimately, that would leave Margaret alone. Margaret's never happier than when she's in that house with that girl making a dress,
Yes.